Alright, so I finally decided to do a full bike teardown project, and this is it. It is a 1980 Honda CX500. As you can see, the bike has already been stripped down and the back end of the frame has been cut. But what I want to do here is convert the bike from a dual shock setup into a monoshock. So to get started, I just need to cut this back end of the frame off. I'm just going to square off the edges, but later on I'll make sure this all looks good. As you watch, you'll notice that I'm by no means a qualified mechanic and I'm going to be making mistakes along the way. As you can see, I've removed most of the frame. I'm just going to have to lower the engine next so I can get to that front part of the frame that's welded to the main frame tube, and then clean it up and grind those welds down. It's actually quite easy to get this engine out of the frame. There's just a few mounting bolts and a bolt that locks the drive shaft. Once you remove those, it should be fairly easy to get the engine out. Now unfortunately I don't have a jack, so I'm using these axle stands to prop under the engine. The plan is to somehow balance the engine on these axle stands and then lift the frame off the engine once I've got all the mounting bolts out. Alright, so now that the engine's out, I've got better access to the front part of the frame. I'm just going to cut along these welds to try to get those pieces off, as well as the rear shock mount on the left side of the swing arm. So this was a little bit more tricky than I thought. I had to flip the frame a few times just to get the right angle on those welds, but I eventually came right. When I mentioned earlier that I'll be making mistakes, this is definitely something I could have been a little bit more careful with. When I was grinding down the welds on the main frame tube, I might have taken off a little bit more material than I needed to. It's nothing serious, but it's definitely something you should keep in mind when doing this. So here's the swing arm after cutting off the bracket mounts. It's not very pretty at the moment, but I'm just going to grind down what I can and use a file just to clean it up a little bit. Now that the engine's out of the frame, I'm just going to take this opportunity to give the frame a quick clean. I'm going to hit it with some degreaser and the high pressure hose just to get all that dirt and grime in those hard to reach places out. So just a side note, I mixed way too much soap in this foam cannon, so ended up washing the other bikes as well. Alright, so it's finally time to remove the swing arm. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be sending this to a metal fabricator to get the rear shock mount welded securely. Ideally, I'd like to take the whole frame to the fabricator, but unfortunately I don't have the transport to do this. so hopefully the measurements that are given will be enough and the rear shock mount lines up with the frame. Well, that's it for today. I'm going to take the swing arm to the fabricator and hopefully have it installed in the next video. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see how this project turns out. See you next time.